this is my skirt pattern. If you are using this skirt to make just a skirt for yourself, then you need to come down from the waistline by 1 or 1.5 inches, and so that you can have a new waistline. But if you do not, or probably you want to use this skirt and to combine it with a top to make a dress, fine, you may not bother to do this. Okay, so but I would advise that if you are using this skirt just the way it is without combining it, then you need to go to the waistline, fold in the darts, come down by 1.5 inches or 1 inch, then you have a new waistline. So for this, it is likely I use this to, maybe I combine this skirt with a top to make a dress. So, and that's why I'll be using, just creating my design on this skirt directly. All right, this is my center front, as you can see, and this is my hip line. Now on the center front, on the hip line, I'm going to come out by 3/4 of an inch. Okay, so from this waistline to the hip, I will divide by 3. Now mine hip depth is 9, divided by 3 is 3. So all I need to do is just to measure 3 inches, which is about 1/3 of it. So, and of course, marking it, I will place my ruler and just mark it like this, and from this point now I will come down by 0.5 inch, and now I can connect this and this together with a straight line. All right, you can see what it looks like. Then this point and this point I will connect with a straight line. So just connecting from that 0.5 inch point to the waistline, okay, so make sure it connects to the center front as shown. Now next is to bring down my dart to the line I drew. You can see what I've done, and next is to cut out. So please ensure you label your pattern, and I am removing the seam allowance on the waistline. Next is to cut the darts open and close permanently. This is my side front, so please note that. Now next is to slash the center front open. This is optional. If you're going to tuck in the flare that is on that skirt, if you're going to tuck it into the center front, then you can slash this open. But if not, please avoid or just ignore this. Now ignore this dart line. It is not that important on this pattern. This pattern was meant for another design, so I just decided to use this for this particular video, so please ignore the dark line. Now this part, you will notice that there are some folds. You know, the flare is being folded and placed on this line, so you are going to determine or decide how much fold or how much this will cover. Okay, so here now is going to, the fold is going to cover this part, so you need to really decide that. Okay, so now I'm going to come down by 2 inches from my natural nail, because this pattern wasn't really meant for this particular design. Okay, so I need to, you know, just reduce the length a bit. So from the natural nail, I came down by 2 inches. So you can decide whatever length that you want. It could be, you know, above your nail, it could be on your natural nail, it could be below your nail. So the choice is actually yours. So this is my new hemline. Okay, so this part, this lower part, has nothing to do with this pattern anymore. I don't need this part anymore. Okay, now this point, I am going to draw my flare guidelines. Now what I mean by flare guidelines, you know, there is, you know, a particular flare that is being attached on the front part. So, and I need to just follow just the way it looks and draw these guidelines. Now these guidelines is just to like guide me on how to really determine or draw my lines, you know. So it doesn't really have to be the same way on this pattern. Okay, now I'm going to measure from here to here to the hemline and divide by 3. Okay, so, and I have about 6.5 or so, and from the hemline I'm measuring 6.5 upward. So that means this line is going to cover about 2/3 of the length. Okay, so this is going to be the first line, and from this first line to the other line, you know, that I drew earlier, the first one, I'm going to measure it and find the midpoint. I have about 3 inches, so the midpoint is about 1.5 inches. So I'm going to draw another line from this point. Now what I'm simply doing here is to just follow, just to use my creative mind to follow the lines or the fold lines on this flare. Okay, so there could be a better way, fine, but this is just my way. All right, you notice that the down part of the flare is wider, and usually that is how a flare looks. The upper part is narrower and the down part is wider. So whatever measurement that you have from the first line to the second line, you are going to times it by 2, because there is going to be a fold. Okay, so it has to be times 2. So from here to here, the first and the second, I have 1.5. So now this is another paper. I decided to use a brown paper so that you guys can really understand and see what I am doing. Now my first line is about 13.5 or so, 13 point something, and the second line is about 13.9. And here the distance between the two lines is 1.5. Okay, so this will just be like a guide for me, and from the second to the last is about 1.5. So altogether that's about 3 inches. Okay, so please don't forget that the flare was folded. So just look at the pattern, the picture properly. You will notice that there is a fold inward, you know, like that. Okay, so now the first line is going to be the same length, okay, with the same length with what I have on my pattern. So I'm trying to confirm it now. So I'll measure, and the upper part is 1.5 inches. And from this point, I am going to draw another line. So I need to confirm the length. The length has to be the same length that I already drew on my pattern. But the width on the hemline doesn't have to be the same, because I prefer to have a wider hem. So what I did here is just to measure the width I have and probably add little to it. But if it's okay by you, beautiful. But if you feel you need to add more, then you can go ahead and add more. Okay. So in this, you don't really have to be that accurate. Yes, it's a design. It's a design. You may even decide, you may even not bother to add flair to it. You may have your own kind of, design. You may just leave it the way it is and not add the flair. So it depends on your choice. It depends on you. This video is just to put you through on how to do this if you were to make the exact, design of skirt. Okay, so I am going to be adding another. So the width from one line to the other on the upper part is 1.5. And don't forget that there are folds on the flare, so you need to also consider that, and that's why the lines are more than what I have on my pattern. Okay, you will notice that this longer line also has another line, because this longer line is being folded and you can see the fold under it on the design. Okay, so this has to be taken into consideration. And I also decided, the width on the last line here. Okay, so all I need to do, just to try as much as I can to replicate, what I have on the picture onto my pattern. So it doesn't really have to be perfect. I don't really have to be perfect because it is somebody's design. So I could just add some to mine, add one or two things, make one or two changes. Okay, so that is what makes you a creative designer. So you don't really have to copy and paste. Now I am adding about 1/4 of an inch to the edges of this. Okay, that will serve as my seam allowance. So I'm not going to cut the upper part at all. I'm only going to cut the down part. Now looking at the picture on the right side, you can see that there is a little fold on it. Okay, this is where you can overlock. You can overlock it. You can use your zigzag stitch. And the second fold, you can see the second fold. And there is a third fold that goes under it. That's white part, you can see it. And you can also see the longer line, which is what I'm folding now. And this also has another under it. Okay, you can see the progression from the left to the right. So folding this way, just the way it looks in the picture, this is what you're going to achieve. Okay, so I'm not going to cut the upper part now. Can you see how it looks? Can you see the down part? Okay, so this is what you're going to have. Okay, going by the method I showed you. Now here I can trim out a little if I want to just follow what I have in the picture. So this one now, I'm just going to place it on my pattern. Just place it on your pattern the way it is, and just decide how you want it to be before you decide to fold in the one you want to cut out. Okay, so if it's okay by you this way, it has to be okay by you, okay, while you're still using the paper to cut just the way it is right now. So you need to decide it, because you need to also trim out the excess on the upper part. So this is the best way to go about it, so that you won't just assume and cut and you notice that there's a shortage somewhere. So right now under it, you are going to trim out if you want to tuck it into the center front part. So what you will need to do is to just point out how it's going to look. So now that you folded it, I am going to be cutting out and trimming out. Okay, so before I do that, you can trim this out. Okay, now to know the amount to trim out, you need to place it on it and decide what part is going to go in. Okay, so and this is why I'm doing this. I'm trying to mark the point, you know, that is directly on the center front. So but my advice is that you don't just bother to tuck it in. For me, I prefer to just use my sewing machine secured down onto the center front part and not just separate the pattern the way I did. Okay, but if you want to do it the same way, after marking this part, then you just rule a line and connect those points, and please ensure you add about 0.25 inch seam allowance, and this, or probably half an inch, to the part you're going to cut. So don't just cut directly, just, you know, determine how much is going to go in as your seam allowance. I hope you understand my point. So this is what you will do, and you can also do it this way too. Place it there and secure with your machine, or you can even tack if you you don't want to get confused. Now I am about to just cut. Now here you can add about half an inch seam allowance to this line, okay, before you cut. So this will be your seam allowance by the time you're joining. All right, so cutting now, this is what you will have. So can you see? And it's also in line with the lines I drew earlier. So this is what I have. This is the flare. Can you see? Now here I am going to be adding my slash lines, but before I do that, I am closing my dart. This is very, very important. You can't insert slash lines or draw slash lines without closing your dart. Now I am trimming out the seam allowance on the waistline. So here I'm also inserting my slash lines. So just follow, just use your discretion for this. And at this point as well, I am going to draw my slash lines . Okay, so now that I've opened up already, I need to place another paper under it, and I'm spreading by 1.5 inches. So look at what I have. After spreading by 1.5 inches, I folded it in, folded it back, and trimmed it. So this is the outcome of it. You can see how it looks. So you can try yours and let me have the feedback. And if you have any question at all, ensure you drop in the comment section. Follow me on all my social media platforms: Thydee Patterns on Instagram, Thydee Patterns on Facebook, and I have a group also called Thydee Patterns. All right, so you can see my pattern. This is so beautiful, so lovely. Now, because I've already decided the length I want, and you can see what I'm doing. I am just reducing it, removing the part I don't want. All right, guys, this is the outcome, and I think with this viewpoint of mine, I have convinced you that this could be the best way to go about the design. Yeah, so this is what I have. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Take care. Please ensure you like my video. Very important. Like this video. The more you like, the more my channel grows. Okay, so this is very important to me. Thank you so much once again.